Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well today. I hope you've had a good weekend. And you're ready to start the week with some more Microsoft 365 development news. Just a reminder, in case you needed it, if you've been heads down, Christmas is coming. So it's time to break out that OBS scene. I did a blog post a million years ago actually about how to do this particular OBS scene. If you find that interesting, you can go search on my blog for it. I'm probably not going to link to it in this week because there's other things to talk about. But yeah, it's a useful way to use, or it's an interesting use of OBS. Anyway, let's back to what's happening this week. And the first thing I want to call out is a blog post from the Microsoft 365 dev blog. And the title, I'm just going to read the title and then we're going to talk it through. So, boost your Microsoft 365 app performance, introducing tree shaking in TeamsJS. Okay, so what is this? If you already know what tree shaking is, this is going to be quite a short blog post for you. TeamsJS now supports tree shaking. Done. If you don't know what tree shaking is, imagine you're using the TeamsJS library, but you're not using 100% of it. You're probably using some smaller part of it, maybe as low as 20-30%. What it means is actually if you don't do anything, you're carrying around all the weight of those unused functions that you don't care about and you're never going to call. And that's just overhead that the client has to download, and it impacts your first load times and all those sort of things. So tree shaking is a way, essentially static analysis of working out what you use and throwing away all the bits that you're not using. It's supported by a number of, different sort of bundling software, whatever bundling systems, I guess, bundlers. So whatever you use, if you don't use any, go look into things like Webpack or Rollup or anything else really that supports tree shaking. So there's a whole blog post about it. For me, I mean, this is good. Don't get me wrong. It is good. It's good that this happens. There's a bit of me that sort of thinks, does this warrant a whole blog post? Should it just not be in there anyway? Is that not part of making a package and from day one? But I'm glad it's here. So if you use TeamsJS, I would definitely check this out because those deployments, those TeamsJS SDKs can be, quite big. And obviously first load speed really counts on the web. So anything you can do to make that smaller is good. So the TeamsJS library is now fully shakeable. So take advantage of it. Okay, cool. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. So TeamsJS now supports tree shaking. Very good. If you don't know what tree shaking is, it's worth checking out if you do front-end development. If you're using the TeamsJS library, it is worth looking into and just seeing if you can build it into your pipeline somewhere. It may already be there. If you've already got minification steps in there, maybe it might be in there. It's worth checking it out. But you don't have to do anything. If you already have a pipeline that supports tree shaking, you don't have to do anything other than just make sure you're on the latest version, which is 2.31. So just make sure you're on that version. And it should just happen. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Azure Communication Services and their upcoming preview of bidirectional audio streaming APIs. So upcoming clearly meant very, very soon because there's a blog post in the week from that same team to say that the preview is now ready to go. So it's a public preview, which is great. This team are doing everything right, I think, because they don't have massively long lead times on their announcements. When they announce something is upcoming, it comes out quite soon. And very often they don't talk about it until it's ready to go into public preview. So they don't talk so much about the private previews, which I think is really, really good because it allows us to get excited about stuff without constantly having to sort of temper our excitement by, oh yeah, but you're not going to get it, apart unless you're kind of one of a handful of companies, you're not going to get it for 6 months or 12 months or something. So this was talked about a couple of weeks ago, and now it's something you can do today. It's in preview still. It's not GA, but it's in preview. But this is really cool. So there's a new blog post about it, so goes into a good amount of detail about how it works, what you can do with it, and then there's a nice quick start as well. So nice set of sort of prerequisite steps, and then there's a sample that you can clone and get going with. Nice way to just get going and set things up. There is a bit of messing around with the environments and tunneling and stuff like that. Remember, you are throwing around real-time audio streams, so there is some stuff to set up, but it's not as bad as it used to be. So let's put it that way. It used to be really, really messy, and it used to be a kind of turn off, actually, even for like people, I don't know, who do development every day. So like, I was developing this stuff every day. I would still be like, oh, do I really have to do this thing? Because it was like, you had to go and buy some certificates. You had to have a particular type of VM. It was just really onerous, and it isn't that at all anymore. So this is really cool. This is more about just HTTP tunneling, honestly. So yep, that's all cool. And yeah, like I said, there's a quick start. So yeah, good to see that in there, and you can kind of go through the quick start and see all the things it's doing. I think this is really cool. This is a great level of detail to provide to something as it comes out. I'm kind of excited by this. I'm excited by what people are going to do with it. I would like to go and play with it. I'm not quite sure. I've got like a list of things I need to go and play with, and I'm going to add it to that list, but it's kind of not at the front, which is annoying because I do kind of want it to be, but it would be unfair to bump it from some of the other stuff because the other stuff is cool as well. Yeah. So I will get to this. But if you get there first, let me know how you get on. Let me know what you're making with it. I think there's some really interesting potential here for doing very interesting things with the audio and Azure OpenAI and reasoning and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think exciting times. Okay, and finally, code referencing for GitHub Copilot chat in Visual Studio. So this is an important one for your enterprise people. So the GitHub Copilot chat stuff that's in Visual Studio does a really good job of suggesting bits of code to you and saying, like here, as a developer, you can say, I want a piece of code that does this. It, make sure it has some, error handling, and make sure it does this use case and that use case, and it will kind of modify the code and give you code samples and stuff like that. Depending on your organization, it may be a concern if what the LLM returns is very similar or exactly the same to other publicly available repos that may have license restrictions. So what happens now in Visual Studio is you get told that the code that's been generated matches similar code in public repos, which I think is really smart. It's like an additional, almost like a guardrail around the output from the LLM to check it against, known public code repositories, GitHub essentially, I guess. And depending on your admin setting, you can actually block it as well. So actually, your developers won't even see the code output because it got blocked because it matched public code. So if you have a policy of not including public code, you might want to look into this to make sure that the samples being generated by your LLM, if you're using Copilot Chat, are not so similar to public repo code that effectively your developers are kind of breaking your rules without even realizing it. Okay, so yeah, really interesting. So if that is you, then go check this out. There's the blog post has got those examples. It's got the configuration information you need for enabling that stuff. Yeah, so super useful. I'd say more so for enterprises than anyone else because of those license restrictions and sometimes the stance that enterprises have around using publicly accessible code. So definitely one to check out there. All right, I think that is everything from me. Like I say, not loads of news this week. Nice and sort of getting into the Christmas spirit. So that's all good. And whatever it is you're doing this week, I hope you're getting ready for Christmas. And I hope it's not too busy for you. But have a good one. And I will speak to you again next time.